Good evening. Actually, it's a good evening. Good evening to you, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe GG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. This is the first of its kind, an impromptu broadcast on an Sunday evening, rather than the Sunday night that we usually do. So, really, let's get into it because I thought the events that happen and they're just irresistible to talk about. So, Maestro, Maestro Pedro is here with us. LFC, good to have you back with us. Um, it's a pleasure to have you both on the discourse. Apologies. It's like my throat doesn't want us to do this broadcast, and yet it has to go on whichever way. But thank you guys for joining the broadcast. What brings us here is, of course, the latest from the world of transfers, but also Arsenal. Okay, but also Arsenal. Just beat up against Newcastle by 3 goals to 2. So I thought it was worth getting us here to have a simple discussion on this early Sunday evening. Pedro, you say you are doing your EPL team. Wow, is it that a little too early? But anyways, maybe it's subject to review until the actual start of the Premier League season. So allow me have our audios tested briefly, so that to make sure everything does check out on a secondary device here. I don't know why I'm choking, but guys, did you guys catch the Liverpool game against AC Milan? LFC, what did you make of that? What did you make of your results against AC Milan? Do let us know. I've just seen a result was it for Barcelona? I didn't manage to catch that game. I won't lie. So, but it's like I saw some highlights somewhere that I've yet to watch for Barcelona, and then that game between Newcastle and Arsenal. Very very entertaining fixture, by the way. Then Manchester United also winning in the night. Yes, please, Mr. Pedri, please tell us about the review. A quick, snapshot about that game. I've seen some headlines praising Marcus Rashford and things of that nature. So give us a snapshot and we see. Let us know what really transpired in that game. But thank you so much for being here with us. For those of you that are just joining us, my name is Robert Kesakos and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. Like I said, it's 40 minutes past the hour of 4 p.m. Here in East Africa. Hello, where are you from? I'm from Kampala, Uganda. Thanks for asking. Uganda is a very small landlocked country in the eastern part of Africa. So that's where I'm coming to you live from this Sunday, early Sunday evening. And we're going to be talking about that game. I say use something. Sword storm. What are you trying to mean by that? I didn't catch that really, really well. LFC, are you still here with us? For those of you that are just joining the broadcast, kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel and help your boy to 2,000 subscribers. That's the objective as of now. And thank you so much to all our new community members, those that have joined us in recent times. Our usual suspects, I love you so much. Thank you so much for the love and support. Really, people like Bruno, people like Nova Bro, people like what's his name, Preseason Kosi, Mariam Nalmasi, LFC is one of our usual suspects on the channel, and every single one of you that tunes in every single day to catch the latest that we may bring you. All my old Instagram feed is full by Italian brands like Tag, because perhaps that's what you watch most or that's what you follow the most. So they feed you more of what you're following. But where do we get it started? Let's start it with Arsenal, because we've just, like I said, we've just watched Arsenal beat up against Newcastle by 3 goals to 2. Very, very entertaining game. Again, very physical game, pretty much like we had expected this game to be. We will discuss the game in tandem with that game of Barcelona. so that we do follow the updates that are coming in from Pedri. There, he's a Barcelona fan, and he never, I think I'm inclined to believe that he did watch that game, so he's in a capable position to be telling us what really transpired against Viso Kobe there that game that they won by 3 goals to 1. So you watch Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four isn't that too old? I think I did. But in terms of the Arsenal game, I thought it was very entertaining, very electric. It had everything that you would expect from two Premier League teams playing against each other. Again, Newcastle, that bit of a fast side, very physical. They're going to clip you. And again, we saw, Ricardo Carafiori sort of be forced off in the second half due to a suspected injury. We do not know how bad it is, or he just felt an ego, because usually in recent times, what Mikel Arteta has told these boys is that every time you feel the slightest of issues, please let the medical team know, let the coaches know, and we will see how to handle your situation. Whether we need to rescue any further, we will decide that, but at least inform the team and let them be in the know, let them make a decision. So as soon as the team doctor came on, he spoke to the bench team, and the decision was instantly made that he had to be withdrawn, I think, for Jakub Kivio. So that was the game. In the game itself, I thought the first half was again dominated by Arsenal when it came to possession. Although I think after the 22nd minute, Newcastle gained their footing in the game. Although Arsenal dominated possession, it was Newcastle that found the back of the net first through that brilliant goal by Anthony Elanga, a brilliant cutback into that box that he lashes onto, and slots behind the reach of David Raya. I thought Mikel Merino should have done better in sort of foiling Anthony Elanga's attempt, but he arrived a bit late in the box because his counterpart in Martin Zubimendi had gone slightly up to try and provide cover on that left wing side of the defense. So it didn't work out well the way they had hoped. Pedri says Rashford was good. He clearly was focused on the game. Lamine tried to show off a bit too much, but he did well. Pedri was class once again. Joan Garcia played amazingly. Overall, good game. Wow, that's a glowing recommendation, a glowing review that you give of Marcus Rashford. And I think, and part of the reason as why I'm inclined to believe that Marcus Rashford, similarly, maybe even Victor Gyökeres, will both succeed at Barcelona and Arsenal respectively, is because one, they have that hunger to prove doubters that I can still hack it at this level. There's a lot of they have a doubting Thomas. We have a lot of doubting Thomases out there, especially for Marcus Rashford's move to Barcelona, because majority, I do not see how it fits into that Barcelona picture. When it comes to Victor Gyökeres, because he's been hacking it in Portugal, we have the doubting Thomas who think he may not be able to hack it in the Premier League because it's a huge step up or upgrade from where he's been playing in the Portuguese, Super League. So, and that kind of thing. So, I think that in itself will be motivation enough for these two players to really fight and put results on board in terms of goals, goal contributions, and overall team play, because people have really written them off before they even kick a ball in those jerseys. In as far as the Arsenal game is concerned, before kickoff, Victor Gyökeres was officially unveiled to the fans. He came in donning the home kit with the shirt number 14, of course, the red kit, before he changed into the, I think the training gear, that kind of thing. And he was seated in between Gabriel Magalhaes and Yuri Timber as they watched on the game. So, but yeah, that's the expectation. Pedri says, I think Rashford was playing as a team, which was very good because at Man United, he was known for being a bit selfish on the ball, so it was good. I mean, when you go into a team like Barcelona, and the perfect example I can use is that of Thierry Henry, because of the way he had been used to playing at Arsenal, being the man, around whom everything revolved, being the main man, being the captain, being the lead goal scorer and everything like that, being the star of the team, the maximum of the team. When he went to Barcelona, and he speaks quite often about this, of how Pep Guardiola, told him how his role was going to change, and how, it was about passing the ball, the whole team involvement, not, the sole individual quality, because there are so many individuals that were really, really good. Iniesta, Messi, they were all good. I think Samuel Eto'o was still there. So we're talking about a very, very good team. So really, you look at that composition, and if you were going to play as a bunch of stars, then usually it won't click as a team. And the other example we can use is that of PSG in years gone by. They predominantly played as a collection of stars as opposed to playing as a team, mm, which is why we've given so much credit to Luis Enrique, to giving them that shift into the team that it has changed, become into playing as a team, as opposed to being a collection of stars. Today, if we start to analyze the entire PSG lineup, it's really, really to identify one player that you think within their role, within their respective role, where you think they've been overly superior against the others, the way Kylian Mbappe was playing. And I remember when Kylian Mbappe was leaving for Real Madrid, I think Luis Enrique said something in the case of that I'm better off with 4 players scoring 12 goals than one player scoring 40 goals in a season, something in that region. Not the exact quote, but that is what practically he alluded to. He said they were going to be a better team, even without Kylian Mbappe. And pretty much, it is the same rumors that we are hearing are coming out of Real Madrid at the moment, that Xabi Alonso has a lot of egos to fight within that dressing room, because there's a collection of stars in that dressing room. Jude Bellingham, Kylian Mbappe, although Jude Bellingham doesn't come off as braggadocious and, push that kind of thing. He's a bit more humble, I think. But Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo Goes, I feel they are all within that mold, within that same basket. They are all good players. So to get, when you tell us that Marcus Rashford played really as a team, I think that speaks to the kind of message that Hansi Flick must have given him before he even joined the club, when they were speaking about how he wants him to play. And then, of course, when he eventually joins the team, he must have spoken to him of how living the Barcelona way of life. How do they play? Because there are a lot of stars in that Barcelona team, of course. By measure of performances of last season, you'd say Rafinha, Robert Lewandowski, Pedri, I think has earned that status to be called a Barcelona star, even though he's still quite very, very young. Lamine Yamal is fast tracking that because of the media attention that he's garnered. For him, it's not to do with his pedigree, because he's not been there for long. It's only been 2 seasons that we've been able to watch him at the top level, hacking it. But because of the media attention that he's received, it sort of gets you developing wings, and you need a manager that is going to turn you down. So I'm sure he gave him that very message to say, here, yes, you're individually good, but your individual brilliance comes out much better if we play as a team, as opposed to you trying to take matters in your own hands every single time and again. So in that kind of sense. So thank you so much, Pedri, for giving us that insight in regards to that Barcelona game in which they beat up against Vissel Kobe by 3-1. I can see Eric Garcia was on target. Is it Badge was on target, as well as Pedro Fernandez. They were the goal scorers there. So very, very brilliant game. Yes, very, very, very good game that you guys seem to have had on that side of the aisle. And all I can say is congratulations to you and every single Barcelona fan out there upon that victory. So yeah, Pedro Fernandez being the 3rd goal scorer. So back to the Arsenal game again. Like I said, it had all the characteristics of a Premier League game, a very physical, quite fast-paced. The way Newcastle ran to before scoring that goal, and they had multiple runs in the game. But again, Arsenal were dominant on the ball. I thought Martin Zubimendi was really, really good with his passing range, with his winning back of the ball. Of course, a couple of times he had those splitter attempted passes that did not reach the intended target in the final third, because He was not trying to create a pre-assist of some sort. It was as if in those moments he was trying to make an assist, especially down to the flank of Bukayo Saka in that first half. But it really, really looked all good. But in typical Arsenal fashion, they dominated the game but conceded fast. That goal in the 6th minute by Anthony Elanga. And then Mikel Merino, of course, scored a brilliant goal. I mean, there's a coolness with which Mikel Merino finishes off chances as though he is a prime striker. And yet he's not. He's not. Because when Kai Havertz slides that ball into his path, the ease with which he places it in that bottom corner, beyond the reach of Nick Pope, is sort of a typical of a striker. If you do go back to last season, for those of you that do remember that game against Real Madrid at the Emirates Stadium, the third goal that he scored, the way he took that goal, the first time, hitting that ball, I think the minus was by Miles Lewis Kelly, who provided that assist. But a one-time pressing of that ball quite swiftly, typical of a striker, you would assume that he's a prime striker, and yet he's not. And I thought the partnership, again, Martin Zubimendi and Mikel Merino, for a good section of that first half, they really, really played like two players that have played with each other before. They showed a nose to each other in terms of the way they connected. I thought Ethan Nwaneri felt a bit isolated in a way because he wasn't overly involved in some moments of the game, but overall he had a fairly good game. Because eventually, as the first half wore on, he started to engage himself more, trying to pick the ball and making those runs the way Martin Odegaard would, try and pick the ball from slightly a little behind, and sometimes he was drifting to Bukayo Saka's, wing, that the space between Bukayo Saka and Ben White, that space, he was trying to occupy that space, pick the ball and try to, spread it across the pitch. So I thought he did that brilliantly well. Then, of course, in the third 35th minute, just 2 minutes after Arsenal had restored parity, they won a free kick on that left flank, and Leandro Trossard started a quick free kick with Kai Havertz, who brought in a brilliant cross. It was intended, Bukayo Saka was the intended target, but Alex Murphy scored a stunning own goal, really. And it reminded me, I think, of a stunning goal that Dani Alves scored against himself. I do not know if Pedri, you do remember this. He scored that goal against Barcelona, an own goal in the UEFA Champions League against Bayern Munich. If you do remember, it was sort of similar to that. Quite sharp, and you could see the intention was himself to pull away from the situation in a way, because I think he's shocked by the pace of the ball, and he ended up smacking it into the back of the net, and Arsenal ended up in that lead by 2-1 at halftime. Mr. Pedri, I do not know if I should separate the name, but please allow me call you Pedri 8, because that is easier for me to pronounce. So I do not know if you do remember that own goal by Dani Alves in the UEFA Champions League. So we did come back to the second half. Of course, there were a couple of changes with Ethan Nwaneri, I think, paving the way for Martin Odegaard. But in the 56th minute, 58th minute, around there, Jacob Murphy from outside the 18 yards box attempted a shot that was deflected by Martin Zubimendi to beat David Raya at the near post to restore parity for Newcastle, and then Max Dowman. I think, I do not know why, but Bukayo Saka was awarded man of the match. Now, it's not to say he doesn't deserve it, but I question whether he deserved it. If you understand what you mean, because those that awarded it to him must have assessed the game maybe perhaps with a deeper insight than I'm able to award him that. But in any case, I would have given that man of the match award to Max Dowman. I mean, this kid, only 15 years of age, and he is surprisingly brilliant. As soon as he came on, I think barely 30 seconds in, and he was being fouled by Jolinton. I mean, I saw that incident and I'm like, shame upon you, Jolinton. I know. Here in Uganda, we have a saying that if you do pass if you participate in a monkey's dance, then do not be afraid of monkey tails, rubbing on you, or slapping you while in the dance. So practically, if you're in a men's game, then do not be afraid to be tackled by men. But I couldn't help but think to myself, Jolinton, why are you doing this against the Yankees? And I remember, I think it was Ben White who quickly came to, I think, to have a quick chat with Jolinton after he committed that foul against Max Dowman. I mean, the kid looked really, really brilliant. So before the 84th minute, when he wins a penalty against, he gets a couple of Newcastle defenders down, and as Jolinton pursues him, he fouls him in the forbidden area, and then Arsenal win a penalty, which is scored by Martin Odegaard in the 84th minute. That was brilliant take, by the way, against I think John Woody, the 38-year-old Newcastle goalkeeper. I was surprised. I mean, as soon as I looked at John Woody, I'm like, how old are you? I mean, he looked older than 38. He looked older than Gigi Buffon when he retired from football, really. But that notwithstanding, Martin Odegaard's penalty was brilliant. He went more with power, and even though John Woody fell to the right side of that penalty, he was unable to reach it. But before all that incident came up, which that led to Arsenal's winning goal, Max Dowman had two attempts on goal. The first instant forcing Nick Pope into a brilliant save, and I think the second attempt, in two saves. So very, very brilliant young player. He's not afraid to take on defenders. He's quite pacey. He has the speed. He has the eye for goal. When it comes to his passing range, it's looked good. Of course, it's too early, really to suggest, but to heap all the sort of praises that he may get. But based on what we've seen, I think about 30 minutes or so in the earlier game against AC Milan, that was I think on Wednesday, and what we saw of him about 30 minutes for actually maybe even less than 30 minutes based on what we saw of him today. I mean, there's a dynamite of a player in there. There is a dynamite of a youngster in there. So because he came in this 60th minute. So I mean, he looked really, really sharp. He looked brilliant. In any case, if it had not been for the offside call when Martin Zubimendi attempted that splitting pass, it was a through pass for Gabriel Martinelli, but he was offside. Then the foul he got against Fabian Schär, basically a rugby kind of tackle. If it had not been for those two incidences, we would have forgotten that Martinelli was even on the pitch. So, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but that's as much a compliment I can pay to Max Dowman, because every Arsenal's attack was being driven through the right wing. And I remember watching him at some point in the game, and I tweeted this and I said, where is Noni Madueke going to play if this kid is this good? Like I said, it's too early to say. But if this kid is this brilliant and he can put in these kinds of performances, maybe not week in, week out, but in a fair share of games, Noni Madueke will be in for a fight for his place in this Arsenal team, because while he may have just been bought quite expensively from Chelsea, he will have to fight for his playing time in an Arsenal shirt, because Max Dowman was simply really, really brilliant. The other honorable mentions in terms of the game, I thought Mikel Merino was good. Declan Rice, again, when his feet off when he came on. Christian Nogard looked good. Mali Salmon didn't look bad. Again, Jakub Kivio, he has that long range pass that he attempts. Very, very brilliant. He has a swift foot on that. Martin Odegaard looked sharp. He really, really looked sharp. He looked intentional in going forward and trying to attempt to make things happen. And I think next season, if he doesn't get an injury like he did last season, then we could see a reincarnation of the Martin Odegaard that we did enjoy in the 2022-2023 campaign when he scored 15 goals, as well as Gabriel Martinelli in that campaign. So really, he really, really looked sharp. On the side of Newcastle, though I was impressed by Anthony Elanga. Again, his space really, really showed. William Osula really, played with a lot of energy. Same for Anthony Gordon, especially in the opening, first half. He really went after every ball that there was. He was, drifting back to help Alex Murphy down that left-hand flank in terms of defending. So he did a lot of good work there. Anthony Gordon. In that midfield, again, the usual suspects, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Willock, and Sandro Tonali. I thought they did play really well overall. Dan Ban did okay. Jamal Lascelles, I thought Steven Botman did struggle a bit as Fabian Schär in the second half, but overall it was a good game and Arsenal got to win that one. Do let me know what your opinions were, what your views were, who did impress you. Kai Havertz providing 2 assists, literally, one to Mikel Merino and then forcing Alex Murphy into an own goal was a brilliant show. I think even Kai Havertz ran with an extra ounce of energy, as if to say, if Gyökeres is going to unseat me from leading this club's, a forward line, then he will have to fight for his place. Yeah, so overall, it was a very wonderful game. But that was the result between Arsenal and Newcastle. But I thought for me, Max Dowman, the youngster, would have deserved the accolade for man of the match because he looked really impressive in that game, despite coming on for only 30 minutes. Then quickly, you say you didn't watch the game? Yeah. Oh, it's pretty much understandable because I think they coincided in kickoff, and perhaps that's why I equally missed out on that one. But thank you so much for the review and the insightful knowledge that you've given us on that Barcelona game. And I hope we can have you for the future going forward, when the season starts, for you to be our eyes and ears on the Barcelona side for majority of the games. We'll be doing our fair share to follow them as well, but you'll be giving us more of what transpires within the Barcelona camp for the long haul. Then also in the night leading to this Sunday, Manchester United beat up against West Ham United by 2-1. That game played at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Very big, sizable crowd out there. Manchester United, I did not watch the game at full length. I only managed to catch some significant highlights. So that's the basis upon which I will be speaking about this game. But overall, I thought Man United looked comfortably good in some sections of the game. Bruno Fernandes scored a penalty. I wondered what Alfonso Areola was doing in giving away such a penalty, especially when the opponent player is facing in the opposite direction of your goal, and they're not really in full command of the ball because it was in the box area. And then Alfonso Areola clattered into him, and it was a penalty awarded. Bruno Fernandes stepped up and scored that one. Player to watch is Draw Fernandes. The next Lamine Yamal. I mean, La Masia is well known for producing some really brilliant talent. You say Torrents, okay. Geoffrey Torrents, okay. I mean, La Masia is really known for producing some incredible talents over there. So it wouldn't surprise us any one bit if they pulled out another game, because something happened with Pedri, Gavi, even when Ansu Fati was to the occasion. Never mind that he's since fallen off the wagon. But yeah, you guys are really capable and of producing those youngsters that are really good. Geoffrey is a left back who will dominate. Would you compare him to, let's say, a younger version of Marcelo? Would you compare him to that? Because I think Marcelo is one of the most exciting left backs I've watched in modern football because of his capabilities on the ball, really. So very interesting. But thank you so much for those insights as well. So in regards to the context of Manchester United, both goals were scored by Bruno Fernandes in either half. I think Kobe Mino provided the assist for that second goal. But Manchester United started with Altay Buendia in goal. They had Lenny Yoro, they had Matthias Delic and Aiden Heaven starting in that back three. Then for the wing backs, they had Patrick Dogu on the other side of the right wing, and then Amadou Diallo, I think on the right wing, and then on the left wing, they had Patrick Dogu. Then in midfield, they had Kobe Maino and Manuel Ugarte. Then with two number 10s of Matthias Cunha and Bruno Fernandes, with Rasmus Højlund leading the lines. Now, Rasmus Højlund again looked really, really hungry. He looked like he wanted to have an impact on the game, and in fact, he did hit the corner of the upright in his attempt to really, really try and score a goal. So he looked quite energetic. He looked more physically built and really, really forceful against defenders. He gave them a bit of hard time against West Ham in that game that was played at around 2 a.m. East African time. So I thought if Manchester United are going to be a better team, of course, it wasn't the best display, but I thought Matthias Cunha had a good game. Bruno Fernandes looked sharp in the game. Amadou Diallo scored a goal, but that goal was ruled out for offside. The build-up to that goal looked really, it had been a very, very good move. West Ham struggled. Of course, they had Thomas Suchet in there, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, they had Gerard Bowen in there, and those kinds of players. But James Ward-Prowse was in there. But overall, they didn't look really, really good. If I'm being honest, West Ham, they looked unconvincing. And Nicholas Fulcru, for me, I think West Ham was scammed, by the way, for that deal for Nicholas Fulcru. But let's wait and see if Graham Potter can change that tide. But overall, it was a good game for Manchester United. I think there's a lot of positives for them to pick on. If they can play well, at least in that sort of with the consistency, the magnitude of how they played that game, I think they will find less trouble with especially teams below the bottom 10 if they can put on those kinds of performances. But also, it begs for me the question, where will Brian Mbeumo play if that is the kind of setup? Because for me, I do not believe in Manchester United, in Ruben Amorim, trying to play Bruno Fernandes in that deep line midfield role of a number 8, because I do not think, I've never really looked, because for number 8 to be good, you have to play your defensive duties as also the attacking duties. So you have to strike a balance between both, because in that role, you're there to help the number 6 win back balls or carry the ball or take the pressure off him as soon as they win the ball back. And then moving forward, you have to facilitate the number 10 and make things happen. So meaning you're the ball carrier from the number 6. If let's say the number 6 wins the ball back from around the 18 yards box or slightly outside, you're the one to carry it to the number 10 on the other side, close to the 18 yards box. You're the one to sometimes make the assist. So you have to draw a balance between your creativity and your defensive abilities, which I think Bruno Fernandes tends to struggle with every time he's played in that number 8 role. So he was played as a 10 where he thrives the most. So, and the more I thought about it, and speaking to somebody about their setup and how they really looked in that game, and I was telling them that based on what I saw, I wouldn't be surprised if the manager makes a couple of changes in that back line. For example, when Lisandro Martinez is fully fit, I think he deserves a place, especially on the left side of the back three, because of his athleticism, because of his riff-raffness. He can't be bullied, and never mind that he's of a diminutive height. He's that really, really strong. And then, by the way, Harry Maguire, last season, especially the UEFA Europa League, he really, really did enough to say that I still have the best version of me in there. So we never know. We could see some changes in that back three. But when it comes up front, I won't be surprised if Rasmus Højlund is sacrificed to accommodate Brian Mbeumo, and then we see Man United retaining that shape of a midfield of Manuel Ugarte or Casemiro alongside Kobe Maino, because I think Kobe Maino is the best they have, a player closest to a natural number 8. And then, of course, Amadou Diallo, for as long as he can stay fit, then that place can be his in that starting team, which gives the team a more attacking threat when they are going in the offensive, because essentially what it becomes is that you have your double pivot staying behind, you have the back three behind that double pivot, and when Patrick Togu pushes up front, you also have Amadou Diallo joining the two number 10s that he plays with to form a belt of three players. So in that belt, then you have Patrick Dogu overlapping the other side to try and create opportunities for the target man. In this case, it was Rasmus Hojlund. So let's wait and see how Ruben Amorim, whether he can really find that more consistent starting lineup with all the squad that he has. But as far as that game went, I thought they really looked fairly good. Then the other game was Bournemouth beat up against Everton by 3-0. Everton were the orchestrators of their own failure. Two defensive errors cost them 2 goals. One goal scored by, I think, Phil Billing scored one of the goals. Then the other goal was scored by, I'm forgetting the other goal scorers. But in 2 occasions, they gave away possession in the wrong area, including attempting to play from out the back. But the first half was Everton really looked good because Bournemouth struggled a bit. But in the second half, it was Bournemouth that dominated the affairs as they clinched a 3-0 victory because they are also over there in the United States. And Manchester United will be playing against Everton. They will also play against Bournemouth very soon, which I think gives them a very good test. I've said this before, because remember their first preseason game was against Leeds United. You play West Ham, you play Bournemouth, you play Everton. That's a very good test, because these are the same opponents you're going to meet at some point in the Premier League. They give you a very good test for a manager like Ruben Amorim, who did very poorly in the Premier League last season. I think he won about only 6 or 7 games out of the 28 more than 20. Let me see, because Erik ten Hag was sacked after 9 games. Thingy took charge. What's his name? Ruud van Nistelrooy took charge of the team for about 5 games. I think 4 of them were in the Premier League, and one was a Carabao Cup against Leicester City. Was it? So Ruben Amorim managed Manchester United in the Premier League for about 26 games or 27, thereabout, really. And he only won about 7 or 6, I think 7. So really, it didn't look good for him last season. So this is a very good test for him. Away from that, but Everton could lose signing Malik Fofana, because apparently, according to some sources, Malik Fofana is waiting for some teams that are in the UEFA Champions League to create room within their squads to accommodate him. So the 20-year-old Belgian international, very exciting talent, by the way, from Olympic Lyon. But let's wait and see. You never know. Maybe Everton can improve their personal proposal to him and convince him otherwise to join them at their new stadium. Also, we spoke about the Liverpool game yesterday. For those of you I do not know, LFC went away so fast from us without giving us his feedback on what he thought of that game, in which they lost to AC Milan by 4 goals to 2. Noah Okafor scoring a brace in that one. Rafael Leao scoring the goal and providing an assist. There he provided the assist to the second goal. That goal was scored by Ruben Loftus-Cheek. On the other side, it was Cody Gakpo who scored, while the first Liverpool goal was scored by Dominic Szoboszlai. So very good game there. A very good test for Liverpool, by the way. It shows Arne Slot that he still has some homework to do when it comes to the potency of Liverpool. Okay. All right. Brilliant. Brilliant for all of you that are still with us. Thank you so much for still being here with us. So then again, according to the latest from the transfer window, is that Chelsea are in very advanced talks. In fact, apparently, João Felix has been granted permission to undergo his medicals as a new Al Hilal player. Sorry, is it Al Hilal or Al Nasser? Those two sides tend to confuse me sometimes. Uh, anyways, all Saudi Pro League clubs are unfortunately they are all rich. So sometimes Al Hilal, Al Nasser, and then they also have those teams Al Qadashi. They have Al Ittihad. They have Al Ittihad. So sometimes they blur the lines. But yeah, it is Al Nasser, in fact, not Al Hilal, that are on the verge of completing a deal to sign Joao Felix from Chelsea. The player is very open to joining the Saudi Pro League. Remember, he will be joining his fellow countryman at Al Nasser. That's Cristiano Ronaldo at the Santos Arbiero. So the initial transfer fee is about 30 million euros as fixed fee with add-ons of about 20 million euros. So it takes the total deal to about 50 million euros, although some sources did indicate the deal could rise up to 55 million euros. Now we're talking about a player that had already agreed terms, personal terms with Benfica, pending a potential return or reunion with him and Benfica and Bruno Lage. Raheem Sterling to Fulham, nearly done. Really, that's new because last I checked, he was gearing. Chelsea had offered him to Napoli, and Napoli were still not convinced that he's worth the 15 million pounds that they are asking for. It's a bit of a surprise because Fulham are also really, really pushing hard to try and get a deal done for Rhys Nelson. In fact, he was an unused substitute in that game for Arsenal's game against Newcastle because they have a loan proposal with an option or with an option to buy that could be converted into an obligation to buy if certain parameters are met. I think so. I think maybe if those conditions usually are if he plays, let's say, 20 games for you guys in the season, then it becomes an obligation to buy and things like that. But yeah, Al Nassr really, really close to getting that deal over the line for Joao Felix to be a new Al Nassr player. You say I want to see Sterling in the World Cup next year. I miss the 22 England squad. Mate, I think you're forgetting that Raheem Sterling is way past his better days. He's way past that. Even at a lesser, unless he can really, unless we can see a reincarnation of Raheem Sterling, I do not think he's going to be the Raheem Sterling that we enjoyed coming through at Liverpool, who eventually joined Manchester City and became a very, very important player. I do not think we're going to ever see that player once again. But like I said, the deal with Joao Felix to Al Nassr is almost done. The player has been granted the permission to go and undergo his medicals. Then Bayern Munich do have apparently a deal in place with Liverpool to sign Luis Diaz. That's according to Florian Plettenberg, the deal is as good as done, and that the player will sign a 4-year contract running until June 2029. That's the 28-year-old Colombian international. What are your thoughts on Luis Diaz joining Bayern Munich, where you already have, of course, he will be playing at the left wing, while this young man, Michael, plays at the right wing. Of course, Jamal Musiala suffered that leg break during the FIFA Club World Cup when he clashed with Gianluigi Donnarumma. So he's out for 3 to 4 months. So that means we may get to see him in, I think, October or late September, around that period. And usually when a player suffers a leg break, you can't help but wonder whether they're going to return the same player. You remember the 2018 England team with Walker, Sterling, Jesse Lingard, Hurricane, Rashford, Henderson. It was really good. Yes. Now, again, my challenge with England is that oftentimes, and this was pretty much before the Southgate era, they had always played as a collection of stars. You have David Beckham, you have Frank Lampard, you have the Steven Gerrard, you have Paul Scholes, you have Rio Ferdinand, you have John Terry, you have Sol Campbell, you have Ashley Cole. You have Wayne Rooney. They were like a collection of stars, and they. I think they. I think Thomas Tuchel will be a very very good manager for them. Although international football is very different from club football, that usually it's tournament based, and you do not get so much time with these players. But I think he will do good with them. But I do remember that squad in the 2018 World Cup in Russia. They looked good. They looked good. Although things eventually did happen for them, as they've not happened for them in many tournaments. Twice, I think they've reached the finals of the Euros, and they've lost. Initially, they lost to Italy in 2021 for the Euro 2020, and then they lost to Spain last time out in Germany by 2-1 for the Euro 2024. So, but at least they've been reaching there. They just need to get over the line, and we won't stop hearing about it when it comes to that. Apologies. How is my phone ringing and yet it's in airplane mode? How is my phone able to ring?